representing South Dakota.
Oh, I've been rodeoing since third, fourth grade, something like that, with junior high stuff and the whole nine. The whole rest of my family is ropers and cutters and whatnot. And then I've met so many people along the way that have pushed me to be better and grow. My name is Jace Grimes. I'm your 2026 state champion bronc rider. I'm from Kadoka, South Dakota. Been having a blast. It made me a little bit stressed out because they pushed me to last because they were just points wise. And being that last hole always stresses me just a little bit. Makes me nervous because it's like, don't get bucked off as the last one out there. But I think that gave me a little extra fuel to keep hustling and not get bucked off. I feel like it really helped me encourage, and I had OJ Heidler call me right before we started telling me good luck and what the game plan was and how the source was going to be and what I should do. My favorite part about it is I like the crowd, I like the people, I like how centered it is around Christian. They say prayer before every perf. I love it so much. That's my favorite thing, is being able to get that word of God out to everybody. It's just an awesome experience, and there's so much, how do I explain it? So much hype around all of it, and it's really a blast.